biri. Made in China başlıklı ideallerini, hayallerini ve bunları nasıl gerçekleştirdiğini aktarmak üzere bizlerle birlikte olacak. Biz Siemens Ev Aletleri olarak ileri teknolojimizi, tasarım teknolojiyi bütünleştirerek, tamamlayarak yenilikçiliği ortaya koyan marka olarak ürünlerimizi tüketicilerimize sunuyoruz. Ve aynı mantıkta da bu tasarım köprüsünü de dünya ve Türkiye arasında oluşturmak için bu köprünün kurulmasında katkıda bulunmaktan son derece mutluluk duyuyoruz. Konferansımızda bir taraftan sürdürülebilirlik üzerinde konuşulurken bu her boyuta taşınmaya ve yanıtlar aranmaya çalışılırken mimarlık ve yapı kültürünün zenginleştirilmesi ve geliştirilmesi yönelik çalışmalarda bu akşam bizlere aktarılacak. Bugün sizlerle burada bir arada bulunmaktan son derece mutluluk duyuyoruz ve size bu konferansın fayda sağlayacağını umut ediyorum ve size yeni vizyonlar geliştirmesini ve katkıda bulunmasını diliyorum. Teşekkürler.
Bu akşamki konferansı bizler açısından önemli kılan bir nokta daha var. Ben bunun altını çizmek istiyorum. Bildiğiniz gibi Çin, aynı Türkiye gibi, Orta Doğu ülkelerinin bir kısmı gibi uzun zaman mimarlığı yurt dışından ithal eden bir ülke oldu. Şimdi artık yarattığı güç, Sayın Ma Yansong gibi yarattığı tasarımcılar ve mimarlarla kendi sınırlarının dışına mimarlık ithal etmeye, fikir ithal etmeye başladı. Bunu kendi ülkemiz için de diliyorum her şeyden önce. Bu akşam tekrar Siemens Ev Aletlerine bu konferansın gerçekleşmesine katkıda bulunduğu için teşekkür ediyorum. Kavaklıdere'ye bizlere konferans sonrasında keyifli şaraplar ikram edeceği için teşekkür ediyorum. Ve konferansı vermek üzere kürsüyü asıl sahibine Sayın Ma Yansong'a bırakıyorum alkışlarınızla.
Thank you very much. I have to thank YEM and Siemens again brought me here in Istanbul. This is my first time in Turkey. It's a very impressive city. I would say because Beijing and Istanbul, they're all very old city with a rich history. And as a young architects practicing in the place with a rich history, I think our challenge is how can we bring the history to the future. So today, I'm going to show some projects done by our office in past 6 years, because we are a very young office. Start from very early projects. As you know, China has a big population and everything is big. But the project I would like to show first is actually a very small project. It's a fish tank. It's actually a building for fish. We designed this fish tank because we saw, those fish in the fish market, they were put in a very simple plastic box. So when I bought a fish, they give us a fish tank for free. The fish tank is a cubic glass fish tank. It's very cheap, I think, because that's why they give us for free. But you can see from this photo, the fish, they always hit the glass wall. So it's kind of obvious the fish tank wasn't designed for fish. Maybe same as a modern architecture. So modern architecture, they're more about efficiency and the cost and mass production. They're not necessarily designed for human being. They're products. So we were thinking to take a look how fish behave in this cubic space. And we take this matrix. And the red dots here, those are how fish behave in this cubic space. So you can see that they're very organic pattern. So the fish tank could be more organic, for example. So we decide to change the fish tank. So this is our design. So we change the fish tank into an organic space, and then we put into production. So this fish tank, you can see the skin continue from outside to inside, and the space inside become very complex. And this is a photo. We show the fish tank in the architecture exhibition. So we put a scale person here as a model. So give a scale to the fish tank. It looks like a building, but actually it's a one-to-one scale of fish tank. Now, big buildings. So this is one competition we did many years ago. The background of this image is a city, Chinese city. You can see a lot of high-rises. And this, our task is to design a high-rise, which is 400 meter tall high-rise building. And the competition they ask for is they're trying to build a high building to represent a city. That's why a lot of developing cities, they're competing by building the high buildings. But we thought we should build a really, really tall building. So we proposed this 800 meter tall building. But it's actually 400 meter tall. It's go up 400 meter and come back to the ground zero, 400 meter. So totally 800 meter. It was a joke because we thought building a simply high building is not enough for a city to show the confidence. So architecture could have a complexity inside. So in this building, we propose the more complex circulation and the function inside the building. So compare this to a simple tower, modern tower. You can see the tower, the modern tower, is very, very simple. It's a machine for the office or for living. You know, people they're not about the people who live inside. So that's our building. The building has a 2 towers and it connect in the middle, also connect on the top. So it's very bring a higher level of complexity inside the tower. Those are models and renderings. So that was basically a statement from us. We thought it's kind of it's not important to compete in height by just building a simple high-rise. You can do a lot of things to make a high-rise more interesting. And this is another high-rise project, which you saw on the poster. We won this competition in Canada. It's 56th floor high-rise residential building. The building is twisting, as you can see. It's organic curved building with the balconies on every floor. So this is a plan. The building is twisting. The plan is twisting on every floor. So that was the competition entry we submit, and we won this competition. And then they sold out the whole building in one day, and then we designed the second one. So actually it's become a twin tower, 2 buildings. So that's the final design of the property. So this was the competition, and this is the second building we designed. So these 2 buildings, they become a couple. So I think it's interesting, a twin tower, because normally you see a high-rise, they repeat every floor, so the building, the high-rise always look like a box. And when they build a twin tower, they always repeat the first one. So 2 towers always look the same. But we like to make this high-rise with a life. So the high-rise doesn't mean it's a product or machine. It should be organic life. So 2 buildings has to look different, although they have a similar curve. So this is a model. You can see the balcony on every floor. So it's our idea to introduce some natural element to the building. So when you have a balcony, you have a more interactive with the outside world when you live in the tower. So this is a building under construction. So it's already changing the city skyline. So you can see it's different from the traditional tower. It doesn't show the power, because when you see the towers in New York or Chicago, they're all like boxy, very powerful buildings. Because high-rise, they always related to the power or capital. You know, who's more powerful, so they build a higher building, the building look taller and stronger. But in our case, we thought future, the high-rise should be more about human and nature. So we have this very life feeling to the building. So there's a 2 building under construction. Sorry. From this image, you can see the structure inside. Actually, it's a very simple structure system. It's a concrete shear wall system. So the core and the structure, they go straight up and down. But when the plan twists, it has to generate the shape and the curve outside. So this is how the plan twists. You can see the floor plan, they're same shape, but on every floor they rotate at a different angle. So you have this balcony. So sometimes it's narrow, sometimes it's wider. So this is how it looks when you look from the bottom. So it's very organic, and then local media call this tower Marilyn Monroe Tower, because the building look like a curved woman body. It's kind of This is a drawing from the local kids. There's another tower we are building in China. You can see this model. It's very typical in many Chinese cities, building so-called CBD area. A lot of high-rise office building at the same time. So this is in Tianjin. So we are designing the #1 site in this area. So this is a building. So the building is very simple shape, but the facade, we have the 4,000 honeycomb shape windows. So and has a pattern on the building. The pattern is also organic. So when you look at these windows closely, they all structural units. So each window is a honeycomb shape structure elements, and they can prefabricate in the factory, and you can bring all these 4,000 windows elements to the site and bring them together and become the tower. And the pattern of the building is responding to the environment, responding to the climate around the building. This diagram shows the heat loss around this building. So when you have a good sunshine, because Tianjin is a cold place, when you have a good sunshine, you want to open bigger window. So that's how this pattern come from. So this pattern then be transferred to the building facade. And this pattern is composed by 5 different windows. They have a different size. So you can see this large window, medium size, a smaller size. So when you combine them, only these 5 windows together, you can have this pattern. So this is a facade, the detail. So you can see the structure behind it. It's actual honeycomb system. So this system become very strong for the tower skin. So this is a structure diagram. Actually, the whole tower doesn't have an actual column. So only the tower only have the skin and the center core. The central core is a concrete with the elevators, everything inside, and then this skin. So this is space, the typical floor office space. See this how the skin become visible from the space. You don't see any other columns. So this skin become the structure system. So this is the top of the tower. The skin also wrap around the building. So this is the space inside. So you're totally in this structural frame. So the idea have this organic honeycomb shape windows is bring, like, I think it's on one hand bring the organic pattern to the city from outside. On the other side, when you are inside the building, those holes, you feel like in some organic structure. So this like a breathing holes have a more connection to the outside. This is another project we are doing, almost finished. It's a museum we built in the city called Erdos. Erdos city is a city in the Inner Mongolian. So this urban planning they have, but this photo I took 5 years ago when they just have the rendering. They just planned the city. And this is a photo I took at the same time. When I went to the city, you see this empty. So I took this photo on the rooftop of this building. So this is a government building. That was the only building they built at that time. So I took the photo on the rooftop, and you can see this a road system already there. And then the building, the buildings are being built. Now this already become a city. So this, you see the different type of new cities emerging in China. But this in here is no high-rise. But we are designing a museum here. There's a slogan from our old chairman. Only on a clean sheet of paper can the newest and the most beautiful picture be drawn. It means you have to have an empty side, and the history, it's trouble. This then remind me this image. This was an image produced by a great structure engineer, Fuller. So he proposed this dome covered Manhattan to protect. And then in some movie, science fiction movie, and this dome was realized in the movie. And the story was about human can only survive inside this dome. Outside is dangerous. So I was thinking, in our case, we need something similar. We need to build a dome to protect ourselves from surrounding, because when we're designing this building, we really don't know what's going to happen around us. So this is when you build on a clean sheet of paper out of nowhere. Because when you have a rich history, when you're designing a building, for example, in Istanbul, you have to do a lot of research. You have to know what's the building next to you. But when you design something at the location, it's empty, or you don't know what's around you later. What can you do? And I think that's an issue when we design this building. So this is a very simple dome, but inside we're trying to do something different. So inside is, because it's a museum, we're trying to bring nature light into the public space. And those bridges, they were connecting all the galleries inside. So there's a public space inside. And then some construction photos. So this, when we make the building, we thought we should also create this public plaza around the building. So this landscape around the building is all hard surface, and they look like a desert, which the context look like, because this city was built on the desert. And this the latest photo is almost finished, so you can see this the landscape surround the building. So there's some photo from inside. It's very clean inside. Those are bridges connect all the galleries. And then there's another museum where we are designing, also in north part of China. This museum is actually for two museums. This entrance to the museum, and this entrance will connect two museums on both sides. On one side is a wood sculpture museum. The other side is ice painting museum. So our idea is build one building to connect two museums. So they only have one entrance. So when you enter, you have to see two museums at the same time. So when you see this model, it's basically a very solid body. Only have a few openings. The opening, because it's a very cold place, so the solid wall can protect from the cold weather. And this sunroof will bring in the sunlight. So there's a space inside. So you have this sun coming down from the top. We also want to bring some nature trees inside the space. So that's how you see through the space. Because it's a very long building, we like to create the depths of the space. So when you are in one gallery, you can see through this opening and see this public space, and you can see another gallery beyond. So you feel this the depths of the space. So it's very long building actually. That's the entrance. So you enter from here, and the building twists in the middle to connect to two museums. So the circulation in the middle is connected. It's a building, a diagram. You can see how two buildings connected, and the yellow part is where you have natural lights. And the rest area is controlled light. This is a structure. And these are sections of the building. It's a very long building, so when you cut a section, each section they're different. So although you only have a very simple passage, walk through the building, but you always experience different space. These are sections of the model. So we did this model to study the spaces. Some construction photos. It's still under construction. And South China, this one, you can see this landscape is it's very different from North China, because China is too big, and a different area has a different landscape and climate and culture. So we were designing a residential complex in this area. So you can see it's a very big building, but we try to again mix the building with a landscape, which is mountain. So we make a building look like a mountain with holes inside. So here, two mountains, they're connected, and we have all these terraces, balconies on the side of the mountain. So this is the image to show the whole project. It's a huge residential building. It's almost become urbanism. It's 800 meter long, 100 meter tall. It's the scale wise is very typical in China. You build a lot of housing for a lot of people, but in this case, we put all this building together, become one mountain. So this is scale. So this are the terrace on the mountain, and on the top of the mountain, we have We have a tennis court, we have a swimming pool, we have some public use on the top. So you can also do the mountain climbing inside this hole. So it's very fun as a real mountain, but it's artificial. We call this project fake hills because it looks like a mountain, but it's not. So you live in an artificial world, but it always reminds you the nature. More important, the mountain is next to the ocean. So like the first image you saw, the mountain and water, they always work together. And this is also under construction. You can see the mountain is growing. So you can see the scale. It's a really, really big building. This is another mountain we designed. It's actually against many towers, but we want to find a way to design towers so the tower doesn't look like a simple box, but they're more integrated with the nature. So you can see that this place have also a lot of mountains. They also have this rice field, this contour lines, the landscape. So our building is also look like the rice field, but we bring these horizontal lines up and become a tower, and this tower is connected very smoothly with the nature. So this situation will happen at many places in China because we're building so many new buildings, and many of them are not small buildings. They're always big buildings. So people, they want to urbanize because so many people, they used to be farmer, now they all move to the city. So the question is it possible to have a metropolitan life or urban life at the same time you preserve nature, or you also live inside the nature? So this is our study. You can see from this model, it's actually a big development. It's a lot of buildings, but we can break down the scale and make them more integrated with the nature. So this is again another mountain. You can see we make a lot of mountains, and this mountain is a convention center. So we actually have the hotel and the office and the convention exhibition space inside all these mountains, but we don't want to see the function from outside. We just want to see the landscape. So this is a model of the project. So you can see this model look like a real nature, like some organic life. So because for us, we want to treat those buildings as artificial nature, and then since they don't have a very strong building character, so you will see them as a background. So and then we create a lot of gardens like this. You see this garden with the trees, and this garden with a lake, a water. And so those space become so important. So people, they don't look at the buildings, but they look at the spaces. So this is one space inside the hotel. So you have a natural light come inside the hotel. And this is a space of the convention center. They have a same skin from outside, but inside they're all different. And this, for example, this is the office building. You can see that we have a floors and the typical office floors inside, but outside we provide this skin to become a sun shading. So this is a skin system. The skin, it's like this folding surface, and this means solid, and the blue means transparent glass. So the skin, when you fold them around the building, you only open to one direction. On the other direction, you provide this shading from the strong sunshine. So that's a section of the building. And between the typical building structure inside and the outer skin, there's a double skin space, can provide the natural ventilation. So the building is very green and energy efficient. And this is water collection. So we collect the water from the skin, also from the top of the buildings, and we collect the water at this pond or lake inside the garden. So it works exactly like a nature mountain, how the water goes on the nature mountain. So this is a space in between the building. So this is the most important to us. So from here, you don't really look at the buildings, but you feel something. You feel maybe silent, quiet, or even poetic inside this space. So it's the idea to create the space in between the buildings, but not the building itself. So there's a interesting comparison between the Chinese traditional architecture and the Western landscape. So today I was being asked how you define the Chineseness in the architecture. I think in the traditional Chinese architecture, we never separate building and the nature. For example, those pavilions or those buildings, they have to build together with this water, with this rock, with this tree. So they become a whole artwork. And this tree, if this tree is not here, if you see, for example, if you see one tree in a forest, it has a different meaning than the tree inside this garden. So I think this mixture is very unique phenomena. So we create architecture by using this traditional architecture philosophy. This is a very small building we built. It's only one roof, and by pulling down the roof, we create a space under the roof. So this is a building like a roof surface floating above the lake, and we're trying to create a space under this roof. So first, we have to work with the surroundings. So we have this bridge go through the building. We have this pathway lead you from here, walk into the building, but it's under the water level. It's lower than the water surface. And we also have a swimming pool inside the lake. So the building has many space like this. The space with it's outdoor, but it's covered. And those spaces, they're all connected and very fluid inside the building. So those space, when you walk through those space, it gives you some feeling of traditional architecture. For example, here, so this roof will come down very low, very close to the water. So when you're standing here, and you will more focus on the lotus on the water, but you will not pay attention to the buildings beyond, because that will force your vision. So things like this is about experience inside the building, but not the shape of the building. So from this corridor, you can walk through the building without entering inside. And this space also, it's some kind of a space in between the inside and outside. And then we develop this idea into a bigger scale, which look like this. It's a library built by a lake. We only designed one floor, because when you only build one floor, you don't see the elevation, because when building become taller, you see from outside. So when you do very low, it's about experience and the space inside the building. So this building is a star shape, but it's a ring. So you enter from here, and you enter into the garden first, and then from the garden you go to the building. And the space inside the building is very, very complex. So a lot of a garden, big garden, smaller garden, like here inside the building. But I think it's all this curve, they're limit for the humans circulation. So when you follow this curve, every time you turn, you see a different view. So maybe, for example, you walk through here, and then from here you see probably a beautiful tree outside there, and then you have to turn. After turn, you see the bookshelf, or maybe you see a stone outside the building. So the building is very complex space inside, and it's a structure diagram. We want to create a very light structure. So every structure is like a mushroom. They have a very tiny touching point, but the top is big. And this is the space inside. And so this is a structure has very large span and touching the ground very light. So the roof feels floating. So this is how you enter the building, but this entrance is outdoor. So you can go into this garden without entering to the interior. So later, the trees, the stone has to very closely work with a curve. See, there's a tree here, so the building will curve like around the tree. And when we bring this to a larger size, this is a Google map of Beijing. This is only part of the old city. You can see there's one corner of the Forbidden City, and this is a river around the Forbidden City, and this is a mountain behind, and there's a lake. There's also another mountain. But all this city was artificial. The landscape was artificial. So the Beijing city was no water, without water, and flat. But then the old people, they built a mountain, they built architecture on the mountain. So they basically treat the city like a garden. And we were designing a building, and here is it's very historical context. So here it's basically saying about the beauty of the city it's about the emptiness, about the void, not building itself. So this is a diagram of our building. You can see this all the modern buildings, like big scale buildings, and those represent traditional courtyard buildings, small houses, traditional buildings. So we have to make the big building and a slope, and then composed by these small scale elements. So this is our building, although it's a big, but we're trying to break down the scale. So this is a plan of the old city, the urban fabric. And then we took the scale from here and stacked them together. So this will become a vertical courtyards. So this is a conceptual model. So you can see when we put all these pixels together, so this building is composed by many void space and courtyards and trees. So you can see this very old neighborhood. So we trying to make a new building, but looks like feels the space is continuous, the scale and the space. And when we designing a high-rise, even bigger building, we're trying to find the similar idea, which is making gardens and have a trees and a void space inside the high-rise. So these are some examples of the high-rise buildings. You can see those towers you're very familiar with. All the modern building history is, the competing height and the more powerful, more monumental. This where our tower located is a city called Chongqing, already full of towers, look like this. But if you don't know this city, you can mix this with any other cities because they don't have identity. They look all the same because those towers. All the towers, they look no difference from other city. So this is our proposal. It look a bit strange, but because it's more organic. It's like growing from this very uniformed city. So you can see a lot of space, empty space, gardens, trees inside this tower. And it doesn't look like any other shape. It's no shape. The idea is come also from the traditional philosophy. When you look at this and the garden photo I showed before, it's all about a mixture. So in this mixture, people feel they are not isolated from the nature. They feel they're living inside the nature, and this experience become spiritual. So you can see we have gardens, we have stairs to connect maybe 4 or 5 floors in around the garden. So in this vertical structure, people have a chance to meet in the sky, because now all the towers and people, they don't meet in the sky, and they become so isolated. So we try to also create this public space in the tower. So there's some structure concept. The structure is very simple. It's a straight column and straight core, but we treat the edge, the balconies. And sometimes they have a double high balcony. So you can see this shape again, similar as the last project. It doesn't have a clear shape. It's also our idea to bring this random emotional lines, space into the modern architecture. So the architecture is not so rigid. I believe this can bring the nature feeling to the building. The space, office space inside. This is a model of Beijing CBD. You can see this tower designed by Ram Koolhaas and other high-rises. They're all very strong, very powerful. And this is a photo I like very much. This is artwork by an artist, a Chinese artist. He lived in New York, and I think Manhattan is a very powerful symbol of human civilization, modern civilization. There's very ambitious structures and towers and put together. But what impressed me is this artist as an individual. He adopt this modern civilization. So I think this image is very powerful as a human, how human, one individual responding to this, this powerful image of man-made world. So when you look at the modern city, do you feel exciting? Do you feel so impressive, or do you feel it's isolated from your emotion or life? So, and then this is the image we proposed for the Beijing. This is a Beijing city, the new part of the city, and this is what we proposed for the future. We call this Beijing 2050 project. So it's obvious visionary project. 2050 is a bit far, so it doesn't matter if you can build it now or not. So the structure, it's actually introduced a horizontal relationship into this vertical city. So above this is a park, a forest, and a lake. And when you reach the building in the sky, you can also have a lot of park and the green on the ground. And then this is an exhibition we did in Venice 2006. without skyscrapers like this. They're like Manhattan, like Chicago, like all these North American cities. I think they're end of the modern civilization. Our future is not about those towers. So the new possibilities, I believe, will happen in the developing areas, like China, like also other developing cities. So we will build a lot of high-rise if it's necessary, but we could try different ways to build a high-density urban environment, like the project I showed before. So it's a lot of them. They're huge scale. They're high-rise. A lot of structure there in this, like skyscrapers, but there's still a way to, for example, mix the nature with those big buildings. And then this is also belongs to the same project, Beijing 2050. We bring a lot of trees into the city center. If you know, there's a Tiananmen Square is a very symbolic political space in the heart of the Beijing. It's an empty square, concrete. So we propose in the future this space will transfer to a green and human space. And also part of the project is about the old houses. So I believe that's since we call this Beijing 2050, it refers to three major challenges of the Beijing city. One is a new city, and the public space, which is the square, we transfer to a forest. And then third one is the historical buildings. So from this photo, you can see there's an old house, and there's a public toilet, and they don't have a private toilet, and there's a wall. Because all this old neighborhood are being preserved, I think it's for the tourist purpose. A lot of people come to Beijing, see the old house, but actually people who live inside, they don't want to live inside. They want to move to the new house. So there's a public space in between cars. So there's a lot of construction going on. So this is our proposal. We try to propose those bubbles. So there's a very alien shaped small elements, and we insert many of them into the old city like this. So those are the blue bubbles. They kind of insert into the corners or like a very small spaces inside the courtyard, and they work with old house to reshape this courtyard. But inside the bubble are toilets, very small space. So you can have a small kitchen or toilet or shower or a room for kids. And then we built one of this bubble as an experiment. So this bubble inside it is a toilet. It looks very different, totally different from the old house. So our idea is when we do something, we have to bring our identity into the history. Because the history, I believe, is a continuous path. So as a modern person, we should do something, contribute to the history. So in the future, when people look at our time, they know we exist. So But we can create something new, but we have to find a way to work to have our new design work with old. In this case, we only designed this 5 square meter space facing the entrance to the courtyard. It's very small courtyard, and this old building, and there's a new space, and with this bubble. Inside the bubble is a toilet and a stair above the toilet, and the stair will bring you up to the roof. So there's a bubble inside the stair inside the bubble. And this is an old house, and this is a new roof. So we designed this glass can always open, all the way open to one side. So there's inside and outside can be connected. So I kind of, although the shape of the bubble is quite alien, but I kind of like the reflection image on this bubble, because we're using this reflective metal, and you can see the reflection of the old house and the sky and the trees and the floor. They all reflected into this architecture, into this bubble, and they kind of twist it inside. It kind of give you a feeling that's not realistic. It's feels like a dream. So I think this bubble, when you insert many of them into the old city, it feels like an individual. They certainly represent the individual from today, and they can find a way to work with the history. And I hope they can bring the history to the future. When you are in the new space and look at the courtyard and the old house, this bubble is almost disappear because this reflection inside the bubble. This is also an exhibition project. So the bubble was an exhibition project, but that was we were very lucky to bring this into reality. We built one. We supposed to we designed that for the future, 2050, right? And this one was an exhibition about a future city. So there's a lighting installation, but it's actually a large-scale city. The star can become, for example, a large-scale structure, and we call this a Chinatown. We call this a superstar, a mobile Chinatown. Mobile Chinatown means it's you can live inside there, not only Chinese, but also people from other place. And you can go school inside there, you can have sports, and you can have a farm inside. It's basically a large city. And mobile means it can move. It can travel to different city. So it's like it looked like an explosion. It feels full of energy because that was the idea to propose this for this exhibition because Chinatown, as you know, I don't know if you have a Chinatown in Istanbul or not. Because Chinatown in many cities, they all look same. They're like McDonald's or even gas stations. They're all standardized, and they're full of Chinese restaurants. But they're not real China anymore. They're fake. They're just an image. So in this project, we're trying to show the energy or even the life from the real China, and we trying to bring this energy into the boring places. For example, those cities, they're full of these high-rises without imagination. For example, Dubai. So I saw the Palm Islands was ambitious, but it's a pity they make it like become real estate and build a lot of stupid villas on the island. So I thought maybe we can move the star there, and all these rich people can move into the star, and then they can leave the island nature. So you can see this suburban context is same everywhere around the world. It's so boring, and we need something to bring energy. So maybe this image is too much. Maybe it's look too dangerous even, or too, it's making you uncomfortable. But since it's an exhibition project, it's our goal to bring this risk or danger into the topic. So we really like to do exhibition project because it brings a topic and a discussion for many architecture issues. And also for our other projects, we trying to bring the ideological and imaginary vision to the project. And if we luckily can realize something, that's very lucky, and we're trying very hard to bring all this dream into the reality. That's the last image. Thank you.
Değerli misafirlerimiz, Sayın Yansong'a sorusu olan varsa sorularınızı alabiliriz. Sanırım sorusu olan yok. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz Pardon, soru var. Sen tabii.
Merhaba, öncelikle sunumunuz için teşekkür ederim. Sormak istediğim bir soru var. Doğal çevre yaratmaya çalışıyorsunuz, balık tankında ya da kubbede olduğu gibi. Fakat karar veremiyorum, hangisi daha yapay? Sizin yarattıklarınız mı, yoksa 10 yıllardır aklımıza yerleşmiş olan, sadece görülebilir olanlar mı?
I think anything we create is artificial. So the question is not shouldn't be the question should not be should we create or not. The question should be how we create, because we always create new things with the surroundings, with the context. So, for example, like one image in my presentation says we create from a clean sheet of paper, like with an empty place. But your context is never be empty. You always have something. Either the context be cultural context, or physical context, or nature context. So I think if you call building around us, like modern cities, I would say they're not only artificial, they're artificial products. Modern buildings, they're product. They're not a real architecture. The product means, like, I just referred the product as a like bottle of water, like, or this earphone. And those very functional, but you won't have an emotion with this. You know, I use this and I throw away after. Or the bottle of water I drink and I throw away. But I think architecture should carry more, which means architecture is artificial but has emotion or should carry culture inside the architecture. So I think in architecture it reflects how humans see the world, how humans see the nature.
Öncelikle teşekkür ederim. Bu yaratıcı projeleriniz ve bunları da hayata geçirmişsiniz.
Thank you.
O bakımdan yani sizi kutluyorum. Bir altıgen örnekler olan, paternler olan bir cephe gördüm. Bütün binayı onunla giydirmişsiniz. Tahmin ediyorum bu cephenin aynı zamanda taşıyıcı bir niteliği de var. Fakat bazı yapılarınızda daha katları birbirinden çok şaşırtan bir takım çözümler getirmişsiniz. Bunlar bu birbirinden çok şaşan katlar yapısal olarak bir zorluk getiriyor mu size? Bunları nasıl aşıyorsunuz? Hangi malzemelerle aşıyorsunuz? Bir de üçüncü bir sorun da bu çok yüksek binalarda yapmış olduğunuz balkonlar hava şartlarında kullanılabiliyor mu? Yani yukarıda havanın şartları bambaşka olabilir. İnsanlar rahatlıkla o balkonları ve o bahçeleri kullanabiliyorlar mı?
The building with big balconies and the gardens in China is a very warm climate. It's they have a lot of roof gardens, and it's very suitable for the outdoor space. But also this the twisting tower in Canada is very cold, and I don't think they have many high-rise, super high-rise with a balcony outside. But when we design like this, and they like it, I think they will try to go outdoor in the sky. But I think architects, myself, I think my role is to bring the idea, to bring the new concept, which related to the social issues or ideological issues to the industry. It's when we try to realize it, we work with a lot of people, engineers, consultants, and I think if the concept is meaningful, a lot of people will trying very hard to help to make it happen. So for me, I think nobody in this industry can replace architect to create new ideas. So I think that's the priority we have to do. We make a meaningful concept, and then we figure out how to make it happen. For the honeycomb structure, actually is you can see some small building using the similar concept, but never happen in super high rise. The super high rise, because the load is very heavy, it's quite difficult to make this skin structural. But after, I think we spent 1 year to do, maybe more than 1 year to do all the structure study. And then a lot of intelligence, they were involved. And in the end, it's being proved. And now it's under construction. So.
Teşekkür ediyoruz. Buradan bir soru var.
Thanks for the presentation. So you have presented a lot of different non-uniform buildings and designs, and we are seeing this all around the world, developing more and more. And most of these big offices create their own in-house, softwares, tools, systems to achieve this. So how do you handle this kind of production in your office?
Production?
I mean, these non-uniform designs, and also like panelization techniques and all these. Do you develop this in your office, or is that like a after process after you design the building? Like you go into consultancy, you take consultancy support and turn them into real buildings, or?
We do. I think it's important. We do everything inside our office. It's so for me. I was also answering your question. A lot of we're using different language because the language is not so important to me. I think it's more important is the statement. For each project, you have one idea, and you make this idea clear. So I think architecture language. I mean, like I speak. Next time I can speak the other way. We can change the language. So we are not. I don't see we have a style. So sometimes you can see we have a curved language. Sometimes we don't have a curve. Sometimes we even, like this forest covered the square, we even don't have any architecture. So for me, the concept is more important. And actually, some buildings in the presentation is not so difficult to produce the design. You can, so maybe some complex geometry. I think now it's very already very how do you say easy to make it. I think design is not the issue. I think issue is how you convince your client.
Öncelikle teşekkür ediyorum. Hep bizlere 2050'deki projelerinizden bahsettiniz. Bu tarihte niye olduğunu merak ediyorum. Öncelikle teşekkür ediyorum. Niçin 2050'de bu projeleri gerçekleştirmeyi düşünüyorsunuz?
...2050, because nobody can prove it happened or not. Because I think 2050 is a future. It's a bit far. It's 40 years later. But it's not too far. Some of us can still survive. So it kind of make people curious about about this design. Like if you say there's a year 3000 and nobody cares, it's just science fiction. Maybe the Earth is destroyed or nobody cares but 2050. for this 40 years for a historic city like Beijing is a short period. So a lot of old part of the city was still there, and the new things will also be there. So I think it's futuristic timeline, also very realistic. So I chose 2050.
We're going to have the last two questions.
Merhaba, ben İstanbul Kültür Üniversitesi Mimarlık Bölümü 4. sınıf öğrencisiyim. Burada sizin karşınızda konuşmak ve bu konferansı sizden dinlemek ve size soru sormak benim için büyük bir şans. Ve bu şansı değerlendirmek istedim. Öğrenci olduğum için yapıların genelde taşıyıcı sistemi hep tasarımı büyük şekilde şekillendirir ve yeri gelir insanı büyük ölçüde kısıtlar. Tasarımlarınıza yaklaşırken bu kısıtlamadan uzak tasarımları geleceğe yaptığınız için biraz da bugünkü günümüzü yansıttığı zaman biraz da ütopik düşünceler olduğu, yersizleştiğini düşünüyorum. Ve de hani bu düşünce benim tasarımımı da etkilediği için belki de istediğim oluşmasını sağladığım tasarımlardan hep uzak tasarımlar gerçekleştiriyorum. Öğrenci olduğum için yersizleşmiş bir mekan tasarımı veya yapı tasarımı yaparken bile kısıtlanırken siz bu mimarlık mesleği hayatında bu taşıyıcı sistemleri göz ardı ederek nasıl böyle tasarımlar yapıyorsunuz çok merak ediyorum. Ve biz öğrencilere bu tasarımları nasıl yaptığınızı anlatırsanız kişisel gelişim açısından ve belki de günümüz Türkiye'si açısından da çok büyük gelişim sağlayacağını düşünüyorum. Teşekkür ederim.
I think the answer is not about you. It's not about your design. The issue is if you designed for your society, for other people, and if you design something for good, for more people, and people will understand, no matter how much cost them or how much they have to, So I think. So I mentioned meaningful design. I mean, I'm not sure all this, what I showed is meaningful, so because of many projects we couldn't realize. But when we couldn't realize, if I think it's meaningful, I will keep doing that until somebody think it's useful. Or maybe will never happen, means only I like the design and it doesn't meaningful to more people. So I think as a designer, as long as your idea can contribute to the society, it naturally will become a reality one day. So I think that's it's not about a personal ego. Like I have to realize something. It's not about your design.
And the last comment.
50 sene sonrayı tasarlamak olmayacak bir şey değil. Ben çünkü şahsen 50 sene önceyi gördüm. Onun için sizin kendinizi buna göre hazırlamanız çok güzel bir şey. Bu yönüyle size yine kutluyorum. Yalnız bir şeyi merak ediyorum. Yani bu yaptığınız yapılarda ekonomik sorunlar karşınıza çıkıyor mu? Ve müşterilerinizi nasıl ikna ediyorsunuz? Eğer bu yapılar pahalıya çıktığı zaman sizin önünüze bazı engeller tabii ki çıkıyor. Bunları nasıl aşıyorsunuz?
I think architects always work with the conditions, and every one of us we work under same condition. So I think the environment for everyone is the same. We have all these difficulties as the same. We did a lot of design, failed, and didn't accept it. And but I think I cannot convince people if they don't like your design. I cannot convince them to like your design. So I think in the end it's emotional decision for those people. So when you have a dream, and this dream is not only belongs to you, maybe more people want to share. And those people, there happen to be developer or investor, you know. These people, they also human beings, and they might have a similar dream about the future. They also ambitious to do something, and then they will find a way to do it. You don't have to convince them. And if they don't have a similar dream, and they will give up your design. That's so. Just I think if you have a dream, try to find similar people to work with. It's impossible to convince people.
Bu ilham verici sunumu ve bizlerin gerçek yaşamla mimar olarak bağlantılarımızı sorgulattığı için Sayın Yansong'a çok teşekkür ediyorum. MED'le başarılı bir practice diliyorum kendisine önümüzdeki yıllarda. Sizleri Kavaklıdere'nin bizler için bugün getirdiği Ansira şaraplarını tatmak üzere şarap standımıza davet ediyorum. Ayrıca bu konferansa özel Yapı Kitabevi'nde %20 indirimimiz olacak. Hepinize burada olduğunuz için çok teşekkür ediyorum. Gelecek konferanslarda görüşmek üzere diyorum.